Ready to elevate your credit understanding and score? With insider tips and a plan, you can take action to improving your score, which can save thousands in unnecessary finance charges. Let's tackle today's topic with your coach, Credit Christy.
Hey friends, it's Christy, your credit coach. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode. Today, let's talk about some tips and tricks on how to raise your credit score fast. So the first 4 tips are going to involve your credit cards. When it comes to the time of month that you pay your credit cards, knowing when your creditor reports that information to the credit reporting bureaus is really important. Often it's the last day of your billing cycle, which by the way is different from your due date. So call your creditor and ask them what day of the month do they report your balance and payment history to the credit bureaus. By knowing this, make sure that you pay your payment before that date. A lot of times people will wait until their bill cycle, they'll make that payment, but then that creditor has actually already reported to the credit reporting bureaus, and now it might show a larger balance against your limit available to you, which will have your debt utilization out of whack. So remember, the goal is to keep your balances at 30% or below of your credit line available to you to have the most optimal credit utilization. And really, you get a great bonus in your score if your credit utilization is below 10%. So in this case, if you had a $1,000 limit on your credit card and had less than $100 against it, you'll likely have an optimal credit score. And the way that FICO calculates for their algorithm of each credit card, they don't just look at the overall utilization, they also look at each individual card. So pay strategically. If you have X amount of dollars to go towards several credit cards, pay enough that each one is hopefully at 30% or below for your optimal credit score. Next, you can look at your credit limits and see if there's an opportunity to raise those credit limits. Now, I want to note a few things here. If you are planning on applying for debt pretty soon, like let's say you're going to apply for a mortgage loan or get a new auto loan, I would not suggest doing this because the creditors will actually do a hard inquiry because you are applying for debt. If you are asking them to raise your limit, they are going to pull your credit, look at your profile and your credit scores, and analyze the risk in it for them by increasing your credit line. You'll want to make sure for a couple of things that you've had this credit card for at least a year, that you have not had any missed payments, and that you look stable. If your balance is continuously increasing and you're asking for a raise in your limit so that you can put more against your credit card, you might appear as a risk. But if you traditionally keep your debt ratio low and you're conservative on your spending, there's a really good chance that they will increase your limit. Now, don't do this to tempt yourself to put more against that credit card in the form of a higher balance. I don't want you to go further into debt. I'm only suggesting this strategy to have an even better debt utilization when it comes to your credit card balances versus the limit. Next, consider being added as an authorized user on somebody else's credit card that they've had for a very long time. So if somebody in your life, say your mother or your grandma, has had their credit card for at least 5 years and they have a high limit and a low balance, see if you can get added as an authorized user. The coolest part about this is there's no inquiry on your credit because you're not responsible for that debt. So there's no hard inquiry on your credit. Next, if they've had that credit card for 5 years, you're going to get 5 beautiful long years of credit history added to your credit report. And the most beautiful part of this is if you are applying for something like a mortgage, if you're just an authorized user, we can exclude that monthly payment for that credit card from your debt ratio since you're not responsible for that repayment. So it doesn't go against you in your overall debt to income ratio calculation for a mortgage loan or any other kind of loan you might be applying for in the future. The next tip is to look at your credit mix. I know many people only have a credit card or two, or they might just have student loans, and the majority of student loans haven't had a payment against them in the last couple of years. So a perfect credit mix is having at least one installment loan and at least one credit card, preferably a bank-issued credit card as opposed to a store credit card. So it's a nice mix of revolving and installment trade lines. So if you only have a credit card right now, but you're really not into adding more debt just to have an optimal credit score, consider a credit builder account. A lot of local banks will offer this, like community banks, but also there's a company called Self.Inc. This credit builder account will appear on your credit report as if it's an installment loan, but it really isn't. It's your money that you've given, and it looks like you're making payments, and basically it's moving your money from this account to that account. So I encourage you to just check out what they might offer. There is a fee in the form of an interest rate that they charge for this money to get moved from one account to the other, but you're not going into debt to make that happen. So if you're looking for a way to build your credit and improve your credit scores without taking on new debt, that's a strategy to consider. And then lastly, if you have newer collections, consider paying them off. Now, if you have collections that are several years old, I would encourage you not to even touch them in most cases. Now, that's a really broad blanket statement, and not everybody fits into the same category. But in many or even most cases, if you have a newer collection, that likely negatively impacted your credit score. So by paying it off, instead of it being a new open collection, it is now a closed and paid off collection. It might hurt in the interim, but after a couple of months, you'll see your credit scores start to improve because you no longer have this open collection. And some collection agencies, especially medical, will consider removing that collection from your report altogether. So it never hurts to ask. But the thing you need to know about collections is the date of last activity, DLA. If it hasn't been touched in years and now you call them to try to make a payment plan or a payment arrangement to pay it off and get it closed, you have now created a new date of last activity. So we only want to do this on newer collections that you have the intention of paying off and closing it up. The faster that's closed and paid, the faster your credit can start to heal. I want to give a shout out to Arielana. Thank you so much for your kind review of my podcast. I appreciate you so much taking a moment to express what has helped you in your credit score journey. And I invite you, my friends, would you help me out? If you have iTunes, go to the show and scroll towards the bottom, and it will give you an opportunity to write a review. It would mean the world to me to know if the work I'm putting forward and the information I'm delivering to you bi-weekly is helping you on your credit journey as well. And it will also help me get in front of others to help them along their journey. I intentionally have no commercials and no sponsors because I just want to teach. I'm not here to make any money off of this information. And the goal is just to get in front of as many people as possible so we can help others improve or build proper credit. I hope these 6 quick and easy tips will help you raise your credit score to your most optimal credit score possible. And if you have any questions specific to you, feel free to reach out to me at questions@creditchristie.com. If we haven't connected on social media, why not? Reach out to me at Credit Christie. I'd love to connect with you on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. And until next time, my friends, stay well.